Yes, good afternoon. You're welcome to today's episode. My name is Kazeem Adewusi, and today on the show, we're going to be talking to Titi Adewusi. So it's over to
Oh,
you now, sir.
hi. My name is Sam Erskine, and today's show is about changing the dynamics of education in Africa through tech. But our guest is absolutely wonderful. I'm not going to use her full name because she shared I can call her Titi. And it's all going to be about storytelling, games, and women in tech. We have a big surprise for you in here, but enjoy the show.
So, welcome to this month episode of the Africa Talk Tech with Samuel and I, Kazeem. And today we're going to be talking about changing the dynamics of education in Africa through tech. And we've got Titi Adewusi with us on the show today. You're very much welcome on Africa Talk Tech at Titi.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So how about we start things out with you introducing yourself and let's get to learn a little bit more about your current role.
Okay, so my name is Titi Adewusi. I'm one of the three female co-founders of Niger Kids. Niger Kids is, in simple words, it's a learning platform that allows children to fall in love with learning. That's really all we're all about. And we believe that through this engaging platform, children will love learning. They will excel at subjects and things they hated before, and they would excel just because, it's fun. We use games to, achieve the learning. And for us, it's not about learning only academics because we know that, that's really not what education is really about. Education is about preparing someone for the future. And they keep telling us this future is very unknown. So for us, it's really about trying to get you ready from a 21st century scale. So it's not really about the maths, the English, the science, all those are in there, but it's really more about the creativity. It's really more about the critical thinking, the problem solving, your ability to see patterns, and all this, done in a very fun way. So I'm happy to be, co-founding this business with two of my sisters. They're actually my blood sisters.
Wow.
I come from a family, there are seven of us. Six of us are girls, so we are all for the female, the gender, gender equality and all that. And so it's interesting that three of us are into tech, different aspects of tech. I always tell people I'm the least tech of all three. So one of my co-founders, Dayo, she studied computer engineering. The other one yesterday, she studied computer science. So I studied engineering, but mechanical engineering. So it's three of us came together and then founded the company. So that's us in a nutshell.
Oh, excellent. And thank you for that. I think with that introduction, we can almost end the show now because we got so much information. However, we do have some more questions for you or, more discussions. As somebody that grew up in Africa with some very strict teachers, learning with games was definitely not on the agenda. So I'm very about what your platform does. But tell us a little bit more about it and how does it actually work? How do you deliver this? Because it's so alien in terms of African education from when I was a child.
Sam, I can hear from you that you really had a very strict teacher. When I like, how could my teacher come into the classroom with a game? Oh my goodness, that day the class would have gone nuts. I think what it is that there's actually a science to it. And the science is that if you do something and you do it with play, it actually takes shorter time to actually retain it as a memory, which is very interesting. It is estimated that it takes about 400 repetitions of something for you to have it formed as a memory, but it takes 10 to 12 if it's done in play. And I always say this very funny one. I don't know, Samuel, if that's what they taught you, but maybe Kazeem would know. What's interesting is that if I ask you and say, Samuel, can you tell me 7 rivers in Africa? Well, do you know?
Well, it depends, you know. I know the Volta. I know the Volta River, but I can tell you something else to redeem myself, right? So I can still remember the first 20 elements of the periodic table, right? Hello, hello, BBC, now operating from New York, and it goes on.
Okay, Samuel, you're redeemed.
Yes. Okay, you're asking me myself now. Yes, I know about the few. So I know Neil. There is the Congo River. There is the River Niger.
There was a song that they actually taught us, you know, how to remember. I don't know. It said there are 7 rivers in Africa, 7 rivers in Africa. Oh, now Niger, Senegal, Congo, Orange. I left this thing in primary school. You know, that's the only reason why I can still remember it now. And that's really the science behind it. That anything you learned in play, fun, you actually remember it. You know, and the science behind it is that really when you are having fun, it releases dopamine. And dopamine is good for focus and retention and remembering. And so that's really the science behind it. That if you teach a child something that they do when they're having fun, they tend to remember it years after. Another simple example I always give is Monopoly. I mean, before I traveled to the UK, I already knew that if I blow, I needed to have the house in Mayfair. I only knew that. Never visited. If you had asked me streets, you know, in London, I would have reeled them out. Not because I'd visited, sat down in a classroom and I was taught, but really because of the fun that came with playing the Monopoly game. And that's really the power behind game-based learning or using gamification for learning. It doesn't always have to be tech-driven. The truth is, like the examples I gave, Monopoly and all that, they're not necessarily tech-driven, but it's still the same. It's still the same thing. So that's what we try to do. So using games with subtle messages. So if I want to teach you parts of the body, I most likely think of a game. You know, if it's I can make it a football game, I can make it a basketball game, and say with every shot, you know, take the ball, hit the shot at the organ I'm referring to, and through that way, you actually have fun. You learn effortlessly, and that way you're also able to remember it. So that's really what we are about. And the added bonus is that we use technology. So a lot of children that think technology is just something they're trying to teach them in one boring course, actually find out that when they're playing the game, they actually, you know, acquiring digital literacy without it being, you know, so like that in your face. So that's really what we're all about, just trying to help children learn the skills they need to in a way that's fun, in a way that they will remember for a long, long time, and in a way that it's not a nightmare like Samuel was trying to remember some of his classes.
Okay. So building on your response now, so I'd like to ask that in Africa now, we know that the educational system mostly really doesn't reflect African ideology now. For instance, I wonder, you know, when we're about learning the ABC in school, then it would have been nice if we can relate to what people here in Africa know, like talking about Nigeria. Why couldn't we have A, B for Agbalumo? You understand? Why does it have to be for, you know, why does A have to be for apple? I mean, apple is not from Africa, right? So I want you to share your thoughts on this. Your platform also, would you say that, you know, it's been able to put things in the African context now?
Yes, very much so. You know, when we came up with our name was Niger Kids, and the idea was very African. So our idea is build African child that is proud to be African. You know, you don't consider Africa as a thing of shame, which sometimes, if everything is so foreign, it makes you kind of ashamed when you look at the, you know, relativity. And I agree with you, because when I look at my son and he's doing an exam, especially when it's English language, I can almost tell you the questions he's going to fail. The questions he's going to fail are the ones that he doesn't have a context too. So they tell you verbal reasoning, which of these ones are the odd one out? If you have words like orchard in that, he's not going to get it because he doesn't know what that is. He can read about it in books, but he can't picture it. So if I tell him, oh, it's a place where they grow trees, he's going to first of all think of, isn't that in the market, mom? Isn't that in the supermarket? Isn't that in the, in the same thing examples that they use cricket. I'm just calling things that are, kind of alien to us. If they use examples where they use cricket, use hockey, he's going to be lost because, the terminology is so easy for someone that plays that game, plays that sport. So for us, one of the things that we really push is African. So we start with Nigeria and we're very African. We actually have a whole line of games that really just about showing Africa, showing Nigeria. So I have a game that is like a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and it's really about you knowing about African heroes. So who was the first African bishop? Who the country that won Olympics first? Things that just make you say, okay, it's not all bad news. I'm going to tell you who was the guy that helped build the supercomputer. Who was the first person? All the things that the heroes are African. In the end, what you realize is that wherever you live, whether you're in this country or not, as long as the color of your skin is different, you will first of all be perceived as African. So if you have an identity crisis where you think, oh, because I have a British passport, I have an American passport, I am kind of, to speak, American, and just not realize that you have people that have good things, people that have done wonderful things. So it's the same thing we try to portray. So that's one aspect of it. And the other aspect of it is really just trying to provide a context that the child can immediately understand. So when I'm going to give examples, I'm talk about a fruit. And I'm not going to use strawberries because apples are now very normal. So it's even still okay. now, honestly, I didn't eat a strawberry till I was in my 20s. Strawberries are quite expensive in Nigeria, so the average child will not appreciate that. So I won't use those kind of examples. So even when we use examples, we ensure that the examples provide that are very African to us. And that's really what it's also about, because immediately they're more likely to understand the context in which you're doing it. I know that in Nigeria, they teach a lot of the British curriculum, so my children are also learning about the Great Fire of London. They're learning about the Greeks, the Celts. They're learning also of history that is of really in my mind, is of really no value to them. So they get confused, and sometimes they don't do well in those subjects. And I try to bring it back, bring it back to our context. And I think that's so important, because it's education is not about memorizing. It's really about preparing you for the future. You need a bit of your history to prepare for that, but your history more in terms of your identity, and not making the same mistakes that we made in the past, mistakes of the slave trade and things like that. So I do agree that a lot of what we need, in terms of the textbook that our children use, the examples that they use, need to reflect more of the African context, because it allows there to be, more understanding than trying to explain to him an orchard and going to the internet and looking for a picture and a little video. All that to him.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. And I did have a load of questions for you, and just realized that you've answered almost all of them. So I'm going to make one up, right? So I love what you're doing. And, to circle back to the original question about, it's never been about play in the classroom. However, I remember, my parents transformed. So when you first started off, it was like A, B, C, D, everything is fun until you get to about the age of 10. It's like, hey, be serious and study. Right. So it was fun up until the age 10 to have fun when you're learning. But then once you went past that, I was like, no, you have to be serious. I love the way you've reversed it, because that's the way I also operate. And in an adult context, I like analogies. So, I would replace Apple with, Asante or Anansi from Ghana, because that's what the elders told stories with. If you're from Ghana, you understand the character. But what I'm also interested in is African exports, right? Because all too often, like you said, they're using a British curriculum or the American context. But with what you just shared here, right, it will be great to find out what your vision is for the future. Are we going to have Niger adults? Are we going to have Niger teenagers? Where is this going to go now?
That's part of the beauty of 2020. 2020 was a year of a lot of exploration, a lot of unknowns, a lot of removing restrictions. So I can say that the answer clearly now than if you had asked me in February or in March. And so what has happened is that with everyone staying at home, everyone looking on the internet, people want a bit more of home. So one of the things that happened this year is that we then partnered with Google, and we are bringing African stories on their Read Along app. So what that meant is that on the app, which they originally started with in India, and they now have thrown open to all the 180 countries. But you know how you're reading stories, and when you read the stories, you can't really just appreciate, and they realized that they needed to bring some of those African stories. So we partnered with them and then released Africa. And the stories are not like, just simple stories, but if you're an African, you immediately understand. You understand? You understand someone that is outside with no shoes playing football. It's so African. Whether
softball.
Or you're in Ghana or you're in South Africa, you just understand. You can immediately picture it. You can immediately appreciate it. It's a very simple story. A story where you're talking about, the greedy boy, where your mom has told you to eat only one mango, and he ended up eating all the mangoes. So we tell those simple stories. And the other thing we also found out in this time of telling those simple stories, we are amazed about the various people that want to hear the stories all around the world. I mean, I was surprised when someone sent from Saudi Arabia and asked, are we going to translate to Arabic? Are we going to have the stories in Arabic? It just means that people, even beyond Africans, are also interested in just knowing a bit more about Africa. So we want to celebrate our clothes. We want to celebrate our Independence Day. We want to do all sorts of things that you can immediately appreciate. On social media, I'm always amazed when I hear comments from other African countries, and it's as if it's a Nigerian talking. They say, whose parents behave like this? And I look at the country and go, this lady's Rwandan or she's Ugandan. This is not Nigerian. That in Africa, we really are kind of one, no matter the country. So our stories tend to resonate with us. And we have so many Africans outside of Africa itself. So, and they increasingly want their children to know about their country. Black Lives Matter has helped even push this, further. And then we also had the Nigerian, NSAS movement. All this has just, brought out a lot of African pride and need to know more about, so we need to know more about our country. So it's also opened up opportunities for us. We've seen more opportunities. People want their children to play some of these games. We're currently having our games being played in Ghana currently. So we partnered with a bank there in Ghana, and the Niger Kids games are being played. So that, as we go, most likely we'll change our name so that some of the people that I said, why is it Niger Kids? Why isn't it African?
Okay, now.
About the jollof rice war, I need to.
Oh
yeah. Sorry, Sam. Before we let it go, I just have to squeeze this in now. Learning about your background now. So I'm curious. How did the transition happen? From business management consultant, to managing a multi-million-dollar restaurant, and now to education. So why did you decide to leave the business world into education?
When I was in the business world, so I was in consulting first. And consulting, for those of you that consult, you do different things. So it exposes you to so many things. I did telecoms, I did oil and gas, I did a lot of things. But I knew that my passion wasn't something else. I loved education. And I was passionate not just about education, I was passionate about African education. Which is funny because it is when you grow up, you first of all don't want to eat eba and okra, or you don't want to eat, you want to eat burger, and then when you get old and matured, then you just want to go back to eating all your African. And that's really how it's been for me. as my son did a lot of work, I found that it was very easy for me to get things for him that were African in nature. They were very foreign. So with math, English, and science, those things were fine. But with other things, it wasn't. So I started thinking of what can I do in terms of creating more content. That's really how it started. How can I create more content? Should I do something like a book? Then I just noticed that my son was someone that was always technology driven. Everything. If you give him a book to read, I tell you, like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, he's asleep. Oh, mommy, I'm really tired. Give him the same thing to do on a tablet and an iPad, and he's transformed. The typical African parent of Mr. Eba say, no, you've got to read your book. You've got to read your book. You know what? If I find things for him to do on those same devices, I got the best out of him, and that's really helping to bring my 3 passions together. So my passion to help my child excel, the passion for content that helps him excel and it's still very African in its orientation, and then education. So all that just came, and everything just came and met at the same time, and that's what happened. And then when I had that discussion with my sister, they were like, oh, they think it's a fantastic idea, and that's how it all started. So I said, what, I already have the knowledge in terms of building a business. I've been part of business building from a corporate level. I'd gone into entrepreneurship with a fast food company to build a business. So hopefully I have some of the foundational skills that will help me also build this thing that I'm very passionate about. So it's all those things that came together, helping to drive passion for this next generation that are really not as much into textbooks. They're really on, with digital devices. So how do we still help them learn in a way that's still fun? It's still very African. They are proud of who they are, and it's so important that they are proud of who they are, knowing that despite the environment of what's happening currently in Africa, they can rise above it, they can change it, they can impact wherever they are. And it's interesting because I have some of my siblings that don't live in the country, and that's really the realization that their children have come to, that you really need to be who you are. You're African. It doesn't make you any less intelligent. It doesn't make you any less a person, and it even makes you more so, because we have so many richness and our variety that makes us completely uniquely different. So, and it's that mentality that I really want to bring, and more especially in Nigeria, whereby we can rise and make an impact. We can change where we are in our country. But we need our kids to have the right skills. And it's not the right skills of feeling that they're inferior, but it's the right skills of not trying to recite science or, but know what really is the problem. How can I apply all the knowledge I have to solve the problem? And how can I be creative about it? I don't really need to do exactly what's done elsewhere. I can take it, I can leverage from it, but I can create it into something that really solves the African problem. Nothing solves the African problems like our African solutions. I'm telling you, you can bring pizza to Nigeria, but if it doesn't have, suya pizza, if it doesn't have pepper, there's even dodo suya. You find out that it's just not the same. If you can import something complete and bring it here, because we have a particular flavor. If you bring chicken and chips and don't have the jollof rice sides part of it, you'll find that we buy your chicken here and go to the next store, buy the jollof rice. So.
Absolutely, and it's so interesting with all of the good information you've shared, and I believe, Kazeem, we have at least a series with Titi, right? Unfortunately, we have to wrap this up, but I would like to summarize and say that as somebody that was born in the minority, because I was born in the UK, grew up in the majority in Ghana, and then moved back to the minority, I heard a very interesting thing. In Ghana, I would be known as Sami. Once I came back to London, I'm a black man, so I don't know how that transformation happened. So I and Kazeem are trying our best to go back and get to know me by name and not by race. And what you are doing is amazing. So I'm looking forward to African teenagers and African kids, African adults. But let's let's continue to talk. This was amazing. I don't know how we're going to summarize all of this, but Kazeem, can you close it out for us?
Yes, it's really been great having Titi on the show today. So I believe a lot of people are going to get to learn from the recorded session of this episode. So I think I'll just leave things with Titi with a closing remark now from ourselves.
My closing remark is that I honestly like what you're doing, which is telling the African story. Next generation, they need more of. They need the African story. So we're all doing our own part in different ways. So well done to your team as well. Tell the African stories of success. We don't only want to hear about the Mark Zuckerberg, we also that's the truth.
Yeah.
I told my niece, when they did the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, I told them, and they're just saying anything. Say, do you know that the richest man in Africa is from Nigeria? So when they start saying, oh, you're Nigerian, you're coming from a backwards country, just start telling them. Do you understand? The second most richest woman, she's black and she's from Nigeria. It's important that, when the world tries to, you have a story that allows you to lift up your head. So I'm grateful that Nigeria Kids is telling an African story of some of the things that we've achieved. And I'm also grateful that you're also telling the African story of what it is that we are doing. And so, well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and more power to women in tech, especially three blood sisters. This is like a story that keeps on giving. So look out for more of that from us. And thank you very much. You've been an amazing guest.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Sammy. I'm going to call you that.
Yes, another had BC on the show, and BC gives Sammy simple Sam, right? I'll simply Sam, yeah. All right, so this is our fun time.
Thank you.
All right, yeah. So this is how much time is going to permit us on today's episode, on this month's episode of the show. So keep it a date with us again next month. So until that time, it's bye-bye from myself, from Titi and Sammy.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, guys. Thank you.